Ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday week. It's looking bleak. It's Monday, the 1st of October, 2020. Only 2 months away from Christmas period. As lockdown measures get serious. Proclamation news and gatherings, ladies and gents. With the peasant, the prodigious, the prominent professor at PNG. Welcome on board, ladies and gents. I can work as a citizen advice bureau. I can give you, well, a lot of information really. Parent alienation. Parent alienation. Anyone suffering with parent alienation, don't know which way, what way, which direction to head. You don't have to fight for custody of your children. Everyone's in with a fighting chance. It's human rights, such thing as human rights. Know your rights before you know your neighbour. Know your human rights before stepping out your front door. And even when you go to work, you're getting bullied at work. You got the bullying at work act. Who do you ring? There is a number on online. When you're getting bullied at work by your foreman, or you're working in an office getting bullied by your supervisor, you can call the number. They should. I mean, if you've got some sort of disability, maybe you've got some sort of impairment, struggling to understand what they're saying and they're treating you rudely, or maybe you come from a different ethnicity and their English isn't quite relating to your knowledge. You know, if you're too scared to tell your occupant inside the work, you can go higher up and make a complaint, a written complaint. You can call in, you can write an email, because you save you from losing your job, unfair dismissal. Also, something else I've come across: buying second-hand goods. Buying second-hand goods, you get 6 months warranty. 6 months warranty buying second-hand goods. Second-hand phone, second-hand laptop, second-hand iPad. 6 months warranty. If you take it back, they don't give you money back, or subsidise your phone by being fixed, or your laptop. You can ring trading standards. Trading standards. Go sit in the device. You get a long waiting queue. Sit in a queue for about an hour before you be seen. Left distraught that they're only going to give you advice I've just given you. So, you know, I've saved you what hours wait. Parent alienation. You need to seek mediation. First thing you need to do, well, before you seek mediation, make sure you're mentally stable, mentally able, mentally capable of taking responsibilities for your children. That's the first thing you need to do. Acknowledge that you're a parent, and acknowledge you need to bet yourself before taking legal responsibilities. I know they could be in the rough hands at the other end of the stick by the mother, but the mother always gets the upper, or actually always in front of man, no matter what the circumstances are. She could be a heroin addict, but the kid will always go with the mother. Just the way the law authorities work, unfortunately. Queensland, the Queen could get away with murder before the King. So just bear that in mind. It's always in the Queen's favour, in the woman's favour. A woman of I could say women are feeble. Women are feeble. Not not as masculine as in charge as a man's way of, well, way of saying no, I suppose. They can get addicted to heroin before man. Nah. You know I'm coming from. It's always in a woman's favour. They can have social service on their side before man's, because they can just cry wolf. A man's got a masculine voice. So yeah, don't know how we worked that one out, scientific lunatics, but there you go. It's just the way things work. It's the way the cookie crumbles. It's proclamation news and gatherings. Let's see where we are today in UK politics. Thank you for listening. Sometimes I get the same usual listeners, which I'm so happy for. So I really appreciate the listener on board today. You could be the one that I have on every day. I really appreciate your time spent acknowledging my show. And everyone on Castbox as well. Really put my social media to get some more listeners. Get more listeners and gatherings. COVID-19. What do the scientists think of the PM's plan? You can imagine, couldn't you? A lot of critics on the Prime Minister lately. After dangling the possibility of a mini lockdown to break coronavirus chain of transmission, Boris Johnson has opted for a much softer strategy. The new COVID restrictions for England, which allows pubs and restaurants to remain open and households to continue mixing, have been met by scientists with responses ranging from praise to despair. Dame Anne Johnson, a professor of infectious disease epidemiology at University College London, said it was essential to act quickly to stop the growth in the epidemic. She is pleased to see the government acting now and says the change in messaging may be enough to change the virus, of course. But there are concerns that it won't, and if it doesn't in the next week or so, she says decisions to implement stricter rules would need to be made very quickly. We have to find out whether this is working very fast, she said. Stop the virus in its tracks. If you look at the transmissions of the virus alone, it's clear that the stricter the lockdown, the better. Scientists is this camp fear that the measures are too little, too late. Government advisor Professor John Edmonds has told BBC Radio 4 today's programme the new measures had not gone anywhere near far enough. We have to put stringent measures in place, and it's really important that we do so, and fast as possible. If we don't, then the epidemic doubles and doubles again, and then it doubles again, and so on. Professor Edmonds believes tighter curbs will happen across the UK at some point, but it will be too late again, and then we have to, it will have lost the worst of the both worlds. At this stage, in order to show the epidemic and bring it back down again, the restrictions will have to be harder and stay in place for longer, he said. But Paul Hunter, a professor of medicine at the University of East Anglia, said if controlling the epidemic was the only important thing, we'd go back to the situation in the last week of March. The downside, he said, should would would be depriving our children of another 6 months of their education. We need to steer a course to minimise the economic and educational harms while suppressing the virus as much as possible, he said. He says that the new measures are unlikely to be enough to bring the epidemic back into decline, though they may make a dent in the transmission. Is this going to control the virus so it doesn't keep on increasing? Very clearly no, he said, but the question is, will it make it increase more slowly? What's uncertain is how much cases will rise by the whether protecting vulnerable people will prove possible. Prioritising jobs and schools. Professor Carl Henningham at the University of Oxford's Centre for Evidence-Based Medicine. It goes further. Before the new restrictions were published, Professor Hennigan jointly signed a letter to the Prime Minister describing the idea of suppressing coronavirus as increasingly unfeasible. And he has said it was leading to significant harm across all age groups, which likely offsets and benefits. I'm gonna have a little, bit of a debate amongst us. You don't have to interact, but you can listen in. Instead, Professor Hennigan believes it's time to control the spread rather than suppress it, and accept the cases that will rise. Crucially, he's not disagreeing with the colleagues. On the science here, his comments accept a stricter lockdown would bring down cases, at least for a while, and looser restrictions would allow them to rise. But he believes the goal now is to minimise social disruption while managing the virus. If the government rushes into more measures, he says, we talk ourselves back into a lockdown, which for a whole society is hugely disruptive. What about the NHS? All along, one of the big motivations for keeping cases low has been the need to protect the NHS from being overwhelmed. In spring, this meant closing down non-COVID services to prioritise fighting the virus and preventing the spread of infection. But another fear soon emerged that the harm from missed cancer operations, screenings and other types of care could offset benefits of lockdown. Now doctors' bodies are calling for restrictions to keep cases low in time in order to also keep other services running. The Royal College of the Surgeons in England said it is very essential surgery continued through the winter. Unlikely during the coronavirus peak, its president, Professor Neil Mortensen, said the Prime Minister was right yesterday to stress the importance of protecting the most vulnerable in care homes and hospitals. Thankfully, surgery has been able to safely start up again in many parts of the UK, and we must keep surgery going safe through the winter months, or tens of thousands will die from other preventable causes, he said. Let me say, I just want to stop there before I finish this off. I mean, you go in the hospitals, the NHS, they've got the hand sanitizer as you go in. They got masks you can take as well. Free masks you can take at the entrance. Very very clean. You know, makes you feel that they're taking the COVID measures clearly. I know we're going to the. I'm going to go into the rest after. We're going to finish this sentence, and I'll go into the rest of the. It's a bit of a conference on my own behalf, if you like. So it's shared responsibility to help keep COVID rates low. But the British Medical Association chairman, Dr. Sean Nagpal, called on the government to go further. While was it encouraging that the government has at last recognised the need for more stringent measures to control the virus spread, he said there were a number of further actions which the government could take to prevent a second peak, including stopping an unlimited number of household mixing. Yeah, just as I go into further measures, obviously, yeah, we got all the, everyone's taking responsibilities. I was on a bus earlier. Most people have got a COVID mask on, all sitting, trying to sit 2 meters apart. It's hard when it's packed on a bus, but they are taking measures very safely. I went to the local court room because I like going to court here and see what stupid um, juveniles going through court. You know, it's like in these sociological urban areas. We got lot, sort of say sociological ASBOs, if you like, in the suburban areas. And you see them all going for the magistrates' court. And I wanted to go in there, well, not wanting to go in there because I didn't think I'd be able to, but I wanted to find out some info when we can start seeing the hearings. So I like to take my pen and book and see what's going on. Not to discriminate the well, you'd say as a victim being criminalised for his stupidity. But yeah, not to make him look small or stupid. I'd just like to know what's going on. See if can these people be supported before they go into Metropolitan Lunatic Asylum. I'd like to know what's going on. What else was I going to get into? Yeah, like I was going to say. I've been listening to like evangelists. We have, people who have preachers about politics and against politics. But, got politics that's defending the law authorities, the absolute sovereignty of the ground, and then you got people that fight against politics, thinking it's a load of nonsense, thinking the government, we don't need the government, we don't need any authorities, don't need police. People are absolutely ludicrous. Without the law authorities, everything would be running to absolute shambles. People driving at any speed, they wouldn't pay any, tax on their car. Everything would be stupid. Everyone would be doing whatever they like, causing mayhem, absolute mayhem. All you got to look is the mental distribution throughout the UK as it is. Imagine everyone set their own laws, set their own ways of acting. They're acting like idiots now. They can't stick to such, short measures to keep their own family alive. I believe it's vital to wear your mask. I believe it's vital to wash your hands. I'm exempt to wear my mask, but I still try and wear it as and when I can. I was a little bit upset today. I went to the job centre to get my travel card, and they made me wait outside for half an hour, but my legs were killing me, so I laid down on the wall. But, we have to take safety measures, and they told me to wait, so I did. I don't think people bear the thought of someone else. An NHS worker may be on the bus and you've got your mask on. The NHS worker gets COVID due to your stupidity. Very selfish. Matu Vatana, death. The Met police officer died from gunshot to the chest. One of this is recording one. It's come out in more detail 20 minutes ago. A Met police sergeant killed at custody centre while on duty died from a gunshot wound to the chest. An inquest is heard. This is what I don't get. New Zealand-born Sergeant Matu Vatana died in hospital after being shot by handcuffed suspect Louis de Zoysa. I feel sorry for him because he's literally just come out of retirement as well, I heard. Coroner Sarah Ormond, the Washi, read out the Preliminary post-mortem examination report at South London's Coroner's Court. She opened and adjourned the inquest into Sergeant Vatana's death until a later date. Sergeant Vatana's son dialed into the inquest hearing from Australia. It comes on a day that New Zealand High Commissioner to the UK visited the scene where Sergeant Vatana was killed. Betty Corey laid a brief and paused briefly in front of a memorial at Croydon Custody Centre. Thank you all for tuning in on Castbox FM. Everyone listening really means a lot. Give me some support. Since Friday, a shrine outside the custody centre has been lined with scores for the floor banquets and surrounded by New Zealand flags and sport jerseys. Mr. Corey said New Zealanders were shocked and saddened to learn of the tragic death of Sergeant Matu Vatana, and someone who was a police officer in New Zealand and United Kingdom. He uniquely served both countries. We know he'll be deeply missed. It's just, before I go on to looking beyond the politics of this, let's think outside the box. A police officer's been shot in custody. So the other guy must have been in the police cell, I'm surmising. So they've arrested the guy already. They do a pat down search, don't they, before they put the handcuffs on. You check his pockets or whatever. You check his identity. How did he get a gun in custody? Is my answer. How did he get a gun in custody? They're the questions that they're going to be thinking. A lot of people are going to be thinking. I thought that straight away. I said it the other day when we spoke about this. How did he get a gun in custody? Secondly, where did he get the gun from? Because obviously, if you arrest someone, did he have a gun? Did he have a gun at the time of the arrest, or did he grab hold of the police officer's gun inside custody? Where did the gun come from? Things to think about. That's such a shock. I feel very, obviously that guy is not far from retiring, I heard. So I put, only our condolences, and saddened to see the guy is only working for baked beans and toast until he pays bills. He's been shot to death, working for local authorities in Croydon. Very, very sickening. Just doing his job. Search widened following custody centre shooting. Southbrook Road. London Road, Pollard Hill. Suspect was arrested. Croydon Custody Centre, site of shooting. Park Road, Banstead. Former MOD weapons depot. So yeah, they've got a former MOD weapons depot. Did he get a gun from there? I'm guessing that could be, it's about roughly about 2,000, 4,000 foot away. About 2 kilometres away, say roughly. Hazard of a guess, maybe a bit longer, a bit further. I'm just saying, that's the only thing you can be questioning. Park Road from Croydon Custody, Park Road, is about 3-4 kilometres away. Rough guess. I did say 2, but it looks about 3 or 4 to be fair. The 54-year-old was killed by Mr. D. Zoza, who remains critically ill at St. George's Hospital in Tooting after he was also hit by a bullet. Mr. D. Zoza, 23, had been arrested for possession of ammunition and possession of Class B drugs, with the intent to supply following a stops and search in London Road area of Pollard Hill at 1:30 BST on Friday. The independent officer for the police conduct at IOPC had confirmed he was handcuffed with his hands behind his back and had been taken to the custody centre in the police vehicle before being escorted into the building. It was there Mr. D. Zosa is said to have opened fire while he's still in handcuffs as police officers prepared to search him with a metal detector. No police firearms were discharged in the shooting, and the case is not being treated as terror-related. 6 days on from the fatal shooting, detectives are still extensively searching Mr. De Zoyzer's family in a home in Norbury, South London, and a farmland in Banstead, Surrey, which is expected to take days to complete, the Met has said. On Wednesday, a man from Norwich was arrested on suspicion to supply a firearm, was bailed by detectives until late October. You can see that, absolute men's rehabilitations, people out in the street collecting guns. Makes you wonder if they got a wife and kids at home, doesn't it? I mean, do these people such men's rehabilitations have children, have family? How can they not see it before they take an action to being in suspicion of firearm? How are they not put in a metropolitan lunatic asylum? Questions you've got to ask yourself. It's causing a provocation to the community they're surrounding. How can they be walking freely in a community? Not safe, are they? Not safe to go to the shop. Absolute psychosis. Men's rehabilitations. Do you want that around your family? The answer is no. Why has no one done anything about it? That is the question. Derek McKay still claiming expenses for Edinburgh accommodation. Thank you, Shogun. Appreciate it. Derek McKay has continued to claim expenses for accommodation in Edinburgh, despite not having been seen at the Scottish Parliament since quitting as Finance Secretary in February. Mr. McKay, he stepped down after admitting he behaved foolishly by messaging a 16-year-old boy on social media. That is very strange. He is now an independent MSP, having been suspended from the SNP and has not taken part in any debates or votes. He should be very ashamed, messaging 16-year-olds. Very, very ashamed. However, he claimed for accommodation in Edinburgh for 10 days in July. A spokesman for Mr. McKay said the expenditure complies with Scottish Parliament allowances rules and covered the notice period and requirements of determining the accommodation tenancy. He added Mr. McKay's Renfrewshire North and West Constituency Office is continuing to operate remotely. In line with the Scottish Government coronavirus guidance in dealing with casework and making representations on behalf of constituents. Expenses records covering the period directly after Miss McKay's resignation after yet to be published by the Parliament. But BBC Scotland has seen claims filed by the Renfrewshire North and West SNP for the rent totaling £327.10 in early July. Holyrood was the recess at the time. Although members did sit on one of the 10 days involved by Nicola Sturgeon to update them on coronavirus pandemic. It's a bit of a shock, isn't it? You're surprised they allow these reptiles texting young, students. 16 is a shock. It doesn't say what the message was. It might have just been, it might have just been a bit of compassion rather than anything sexually. You don't know. But anyway, resigned from the cabinet. As a current SNP, Mr. McKay is entitled to claim an Edinburgh accommodation provision, and there is no rule that he must attend the Parliament to do so. However, records show he has not taken any part of formal proceedings since he quit the government in February. The Scottish Sun newspaper revealed hours before Mr. McKay was due to set out the Holyrood budget that he has sent hundreds of messages to a teenage boy over a 6-month period. There you go. Very shocking. He issued a statement apologising unreservedly to the boy resigned from his cabinet post. Police later concluded that there was nothing to suggest that an offence has been committed, and the SNP suggested in March that SNP was under medical supervision. Scottish Conservative MSP Simpson and Mr. McKay constitutes would be appalled that he was claiming money for accommodation in Edinburgh despite not turning up to Parliament and working for them. It shows exactly what we need and Mr. McKay's law to put onto the legislation in order to oust SNP like him to shun their responsibilities to the public, he said. I'm enjoying this show today, guys. Thank you for actually coming together. I've got a great guillotine. I've always got a good guillotine. So, when you come in, you know what I'm talking about. Guillotine is a structure that cuts people's head off, but I'm using it as a structure, as a formation, just so you know. Brexit EU starts legal action against UK over deal breach plan. So we're going to at the end of this. Hopefully, we get some. We know kind of what's going on. EU has begun legal proceedings against the UK after it refused to ditch plans to override section of its Brexit divorce deal. An EU deadline for the government is to remove section of the internal market bill expired on Wednesday. The letter of formal notice could eventually lead to the court case against the UK in the European Court of Justice, the EU's top court. But the EU has not walked away from talks over the post-Brexit trade deal. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the UK have now had until the end of November to respond to the EU's concerns over the draft legislation. UK-EU trade talks are continuing in Brussels this week. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has said both sides should move on if a deal was not reached by mid-October. In a brief statement, Ms von der Leyen said the bill was a full contradiction of previous UK commitments over how hard border of the island of Ireland should be avoided. She added that the bill was, by its very nature, a breach of the obligation of good faith contained in the withdrawal agreement that took the UK out of the EU in January. A spokesperson for the UK government said the bill was a unnecessary safety net to protect trade between parts of the UK. They added the government would respond to the EU's letter in due course. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte appeared to play down the importance of the Commission's letter, calling the move more administrative than political. What powers does the EU have? Although the headline is dramatic, this was the EU's next logical step. When it fired the UK an ultimatum to scrap the most controversial parts of the internal market bill by the end of September, it knew it would be likely to have a follow-up on its threat, and now it has. But any legal path is long and unpredictable, with no resolution likely to come before the UK's transition period ends on the 31st December. Legal advice given to the EU member states has been that for any alleged breach of the agreement committed in 2020, they would have further 4 years to pursue the UK. For any alleged breach committed after the transition period, the EU would use a dispute settlement mechanism, which both sides agreed to the agreement, to penalise and fine the UK. Or it could ask the European Court of Justice to do the same. But this is drawn out legal territory. It seems that latest legal development will not torpedo the ongoing trade talks for now. Both sides insist they do want a deal within the coming weeks, but the EU says it won't sign one off as long as the UK bill remains as it is. The EU and the UK are now trying to walk two tight ropes, and its precarious balance act. One route leads to a trade deal, the other to an ugly court battle. But both sides are looking dead ahead, and neither want to blink first. Looking at Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer called for both UK and EU to work together over trade differences, adding, "A deal can be done here." It's observed that within the weeks to go, the focus of energy is not on their negotiations, it's on threatening court proceedings, he added. MPs gave their final backing to the internal market bill earlier this week. However, it will have to be approved by the House of Lords before it comes to law. In an aid to head off a potential billion from Tory backbenchers, ministers have granted the Commons to say before powers to override Brexit divorce bill could be used. I mean, we are under total awareness of Sir Keir Starmer. What I said about him helping um, Jimmy Savile of a conviction, but we mock him, take the mickey out of Labour supporters. I'll take the mickey out of him because I don't know his resume. He's obviously done a bit of solicitor work. Maybe he's done some, I don't know, jury service. Who knows? He got Jimmy Savile of conviction, but obviously Jimmy Savile might not well been guilty, so that's why he done his job. But I like to mock him because that's what you do. You support Arsenal, you mock Tottenham, didn't you? It's just the way things go. But anyway, it's moving on. Moving on. Not talking about politics support this way or that way. Or you want you all to enjoy it. And what you want to come by if you're Labour, want to come by if you're Nigel Farage, what are they called? Brexit, what are they called? Brexit, SNP, whatever you want, whichever you want. The letter sent to the UK is the first stage and the process of the Commission. Used against countries it believes have broken EU law. It can end with the Commission taking governments to court at the European Court of Justice. The ECJ continues to have powers over the UK during the transition period, including over the interpretation of the implementation of the withdrawal agreement. The court has powers to force countries to comply with its rulings, including possible financial penalties. However, most cases are settled before then, and it can take many years for the case to move through the court. The Internal Market Bill. The bill sets out rules for the operation in the UK internal market, trade between England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland after the end of Brexit transition period in January. It proposes It proposes no new checks on goods moving from Northern Ireland to the rest of Great Britain, giving UK ministers powers to modify or disapply rules relating to the movement of goods that will come into force on 1st of January in the UK and the EU, unable to reach an alternative agreement for a trade deal. The bill explicitly states that these powers should apply, even if they are incapable of international law. Ministers say the legislation is needed to prevent damaging tariffs on goods travelling from the rest of the UK to Northern Ireland if negotiations with the EU on a free trade agreement fail. Oh yeah, before we move on, I mean, law and anything to do law, it's all up my market. Everything I'm interested in. Obviously, Bible is law, isn't it? Bible's law doesn't make you Christian, Catholic, Buddhism, doesn't make you Muslim, Hindu, whatever, whichever, whatever. So it's all grounded, it's all law, it's all guidance within the law. I don't discriminate any ethnicities. I say when I say ethos is the word, I mean it. I mean it from the heart. I love you, like my brother and sister. Um, I listen to evangelists. You know, I listen to evangelists um, preaching the Old Testament, the Old Testament of hate and race and culture. One of my mates, well, I thought he was a mate. I don't class him as a mate no more. I don't class him as a mate. I won't step a foot in his. I won't step a foot in his church. I won't step a foot in his church. He's talking about Islamophobia. He's talking about homophobia. Two targets, things I don't like. People discriminating. I don't like any discrimination of any shape or form. Any impairment of that's not disability. But to me, it's choosing it like a disability. Like these people are not real; they're sin. That is disgusting. How can you have a Christian evangelist in the town centre talking about Islamophobia? I know you have extremists, you know, in all cultures. Maybe he was angered that he sees something in the paper. He said all over his Facebook, you know. He says something about they do the gay pride thing as well, and there's guys there giving arse with towel between the little kid grabbing the towel, but he had it in between his legs like it's a private part. But I see your point that at that given time, it doesn't give the rest of the constituency, or he's putting away Facebook. 'Cause it's not just a constituency; then a dominion on his own domain on his Facebook with his name. He's writing himself off. He's going to get himself hurt. He's breaching ASBO and he needs help before he hurts himself. Because opening his mouth like that, he's going to upset the wrong people one day. I don't want anyone to get hurt, but he needs to be educated before he gets seriously hurt. Because there's a few people close to home. Obviously, my family, Muslim and whatever else. But it's, none of the why shouldn't be happening. People shouldn't be discriminating for whatever, you know, whatever, whichever. Just get on. Bygones be got, bygones, and let live. We see good and bad cultures going wrong in the media all the time. You've got to ignore it and not think of fascist thought because you see something outrageous by a different. It's not religion that's causing these stupidity things. It's people that not following their religion. It's people that not following the law that are causing these, the extremist behaviour and fascist behaviour. It's idiots. It's all idiots. But anyway, moving on, guys. But you know, I'm very strong when it comes to this subject. I've got the same way of thinking 365 days a year. Nothing changes my virtue. My virtue is present right now. I speak the truth. Strict to covered rules in Liverpool, Warrington, Hartlepool, and Middlesbrough. I should have been some sort of evangelist myself, shouldn't I? Really, preaching the gospel in the right way, really. But I don't want to do it in church because I don't want to be taking tips off people. A real evangelist like Jesus done it for free, shed his own blood for free if you're reading the Bible. Depends how you want to believe it. Some people believe things in different source, different light. Anyway, a ban on different households meeting will be introduced amid further restrictions for North England and after a spike in coronavirus cases. It will be illegal to meet indoors in places such as pubs in the Liverpool City region, Warrington, Hartlepool, and Middlesbrough from Saturday. Yay! Health Secretary Matt Hancock told MPs new rules are necessary. In Middlesbrough, the Mayor Andy Preston has said, "We defy the government and we do not accept these measures." Oh, but he later said he would obey the law and urged others to do so. Mr. Hancock said he wanted the rules to stay in place for as a short time as possible and also recommended against all social mixing between households. People should also not attend professional and amateur sports events as spectators, only visit care homes in exceptional circumstances. People should not travel unless it is essential, for example, to school and work. Mr. Hancock told the House of Commons, "Earlier this week, we brought in further measures in North East. However, in parts of Teesside and North West of England, cases continue to rise fast." Hope you enjoy the show, guys. Keep them with me. I really appreciate you guys coming in. I do need to be publicised more to become absolute populism. I've got quite a few followers. I'm building it slowly but surely. Knowsley, an area in Liverpool City region, had the second highest rate in the country at 262 per 100,000 on the 27th of September. Liverpool's weekly infection rate rose to 258. Warrington was 163, and Hartlepool and Middlesbrough both had 121 cases per 100,000 people. Firmly, with no further restrictions are yet to be imposed beyond the Lancashire-wide ones already introduced, has the highest infection rate in England at 327 per 100,000. Mr. Hancock has said, "Working with council leaders and mayors, I'm today extending these measures that have been in the North East since the start of this week in Liverpool City region, Warrington, Hartlepool and Middlesbrough." Mr. Preston tweeted he did not accept the new rules and described them as unacceptable and based on a monstrous lack of communication and ignorance. He said, "We tried to communicate with the government, but they didn't listen. They're imposing restrictions that will kill variable jobs and damage mental health." However, he went on to confirm he would obey the law and urge others to do so. Restrictions on household mixing, with a ban on people meeting in homes and gardens, were brought in across Merseyside and Warrington last month. Households were also advised to mix with also advised not to mix in public places, but that was not enforceable by law. It will not be illegal to mix out indoors. It will not be illegal to mix indoors anywhere, but there is also a recommendation not to mix outside in beer gardens or parks. Hartlepool and Middlesbrough previously had no additional restrictions apart from national measures. I know individual rules are challenging, but they are necessary and they are early signs they are working, Mr. Hancock has added. Mr. Hancock told MPs, "We must not let up, but there was a small hope given by a study from Imperial College which suggested that our number may be falling. I put it no stronger than that. Cases are still rising. However, as a chief medical advisor officer set out yesterday, the second peak is highly localized, and in some parts of the country, virus is spread fast." Mr. Hancock said 7 million funding would be provided to support areas affected. Mayor of Liverpool, Joe Anderson, told Radio BBC Merseyside it is a strange one because it seems to be a halfway house. The infection rate basically out of control. The businesses, the bars, hotels and restaurants, those are those are the people that are employed by the hospitality sector. Thousands of them are going to close or potentially won't come back. He said funding announced was a drop in the ocean, and he was deeply, deeply worried about business. Funding announced is a drop in the ocean. You probably won't get it. It's a drop in the ocean. You've got to swim out and get it. You're not going to get it otherwise. One of the strange things of the first wave in the UK was the virus seemed to seed everywhere. In other countries, Spain, Italy, for example, is more of a localized with a highly virus concentrated in a few towns and cities. But as the second wave rolls out, a clear pattern is emerging, with marked peaks in a number of northwest and northeast areas. 2 seconds, ladies and gents. Hello, 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 hello. You always get them calls, someone trying to ruin the radio. Anyway, it was a point made by the televised briefing on Wednesday with the Chief Medical Advisor, Professor Chris Whitty, saying the UK may have quite a different spread this time round. The situation could easily change. Other areas may see sharp rises in the coming weeks, although the evidence at the moment suggests a more gradual increase. The big unknown is why this is happening. Certainly, there was high levels of infection in the north when the lockdown lifted, making it easier for the virus to take off. There are a number of other theories, for from the socialising habits of young people to the high concentration of densely populated housing. Whatever the case, the high rates of infection and crime in hospital admission in these areas is the issue that is causing ministers and their officials most concern at the moment. Leader of Nosy Councillor Graham Morgan tweeted, he is concerned that further restrictions won't be enough to stop the spread of virus here. We're at a crucial point and need swift, effective solutions to protect our residents. Steve Rotherham, Metro Mayor of Liverpool City Region, said he wanted to know the exit strategy for these restrictions. He said, it's a bit like Hotel California. You can check out, but you can never leave. Other areas have gone into restrictions and months later they're still there. We can't afford that. Mr. Rimmer, Labour MP for St Helens South and Winston said she welcomed measures that would help to keep us all safe. But with each new set of restrictions, things are getting more confusing and more difficult. The strain is taken on mental health alone cannot be underestimated, she said. Mr. Hancock has said Bolton would be brought in line with the rest of Greater Manchester. This means easing restrictions which reduce all pubs and restaurants in the town in takeaway only. There would be no other changes to restrictions elsewhere, including West Yorkshire, Midlands, North East, and other parts of Greater Manchester, he said. I mean, anybody at home suffering mental health struggles, or in all kinds of situations, maybe you split up your girlfriend, wife, or you lost your job, it's very, very, can leave you very distraught, It's emotional times for everyone. Don't think you're alone. I mean, I'm doing this day in, day out to keep occupied, so I don't drive myself mad. And I enjoy it as well. Main thing is I enjoy it. So I'm trying to keep my mind busy. You really have got to try and keep your mind busy. I've used mindfulness, creativity for the benefit of myself. Try and do things. I live by myself, got no one to talk to. I'll bring my mum and whinge at my mum every now and then, but you need to find yourself. Really do need to find things to do. It's beneficial to keep your mind preoccupied. I mean, you could be in a relationship right now, domestic violence. You're going for a sad time. You're both locked in your house. Your whole family locked in your house. How you doing, Bill? The whole family all locked in the house. You need to find something to do. You need reading. Take up reading. Open a book. Do a bit of artwork. Try a bit of singing. I've got a tone deaf voice, but I like to sing. You know, you really got to express yourself in these emotional times. It's emotional for everyone. It's hard to get by with your money, budgeting, but you got to think and budget your money. Don't think beer, think food. Don't think wine, think food. Don't think get your nails done, think food. Don't think get your hair cut, think food. You know, you can look a mess but still be alive. That's the main thing. Health before beauty. Health before beauty. Anyone, like I say, if you if you to work on progression, you want success. You need a vision. Like everyone's got goals. What's your what's your plan A or plan B in life? What are your targets? Set yourself targets. How are you going to get there? Is your relationship causing you distress? Is your workplace stopping you from getting from where you want to get in life? Then what put your eggs in one basket. What are the consequences? What needs to be annihilated? Keep people in your circle that can bring success to your circle. The ones that are no good, are deadbeat. Get rid of them. Don't need them. Don't take punches for people who ain't gonna take a punch for you. Really have got to think about divine elevation. It's a divine elevation month. Come up to the end of the year. Come up to the end of the year, you need New Year's resolution. Come up to the end of the year. How could you bet yourself for next year? We're sitting in this situation now. I need to bet myself one step ahead what I was last year. I bet myself as a person. Also, I'm doing my radio presenting, always producing. I'd like to produce to a more bigger audience, give other people's guidance in life. Everyone's suffering, aren't they? Everyone's suffering something, a loss of mum, dad, auntie, uncle, nan, gran. Everyone living life purgatory. We're all suffering. If it's illness, whatever. We're all suffering. So we all need the guidance. Thank you all for coming through. If anyone ever wants to interact, feel free to do so. I'm going to say take care, one love, God bless. Nice one, Bill, for coming through. Thank you, everyone, come through. If you can share it with your friends on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, even on WhatsApp message to help me build the show. I really appreciate it, guys. I do this volunteer. It's voluntary, but I would rather do it. After I get 1,000 subscribers, it become a business. Become a business. I'm now a Conservative member, training my way up to be a councillor, local councillor. I need the support of the people. Support of the people. What have I got? Good eye to detail. You see the different things I talk about. As I like to say, life episodes. I talk about live on the radio. Talk about my life episodes on the radio. A dog, Rottweiler dog, not in the lead by my little cousin the other day. Not in the lead. I made a comment to Conservative Club. I made a comment. Make sure law authorities put a notice up. Make sure dogs on leads will be fined. That's what I'm hoping. Try and pursue laws for safety of children. It's very, very important. Children's Act. What's the point of a Children's Act? You're not going to have safety for our children. Prevention of children being hurt is one of them. It needs to be sorted. Anyway, I'm going to say God bless. Take care. One love. Today, I did more for God than I did yesterday. Tomorrow, I did more for God than I did today. Hallelujah. First day of the month. God bless everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Take care.